Hey, Dis After Dark listeners. I want to invite you all to join us over on Scare Zone, Halloween Horror Nights podcast. Scare Zone is a news, interview, history, and commentary podcast all about Universal's premier Halloween event. It's hosted by fans and experts like me, Logan Seculo, former WWE superstar Scotty Too Hottie, and Dis After Dark's own Chris Ripley. Subscribe however you get podcasts and head over to scarezone.com for more information. We here at the show are proud supporters of Dis After Dark. And remember, keep your eyes closed and your ears open on Scare Zone.
Warning, this show contains childish adult content and is intended for immature, mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. The views spoken are ours and ours alone, not those of any other bugger. If you're easily offended, we strongly suggest finding another podcast. Everybody neat and pretty, then on with the show.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Dis After Dark. I'm Nick, and you will be flabbergasted to know who we've got with us tonight on this show, because I'm joined once again by the duo of Pauls, Mr.
Hello.
Paul Dolan and Mr. Paul Washington, Mr. P-Dubs.
Good evening.
How are we? I feel
Doing
like
good, thank you.
I feel like I've not spoken to you both in ages.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. And how are you, P-Dubs? She was quite quiet there.
Yeah, I'm I'm coping.
Giggling.
Yeah, it's starting to get to the point where I'm kind of like, yeah, I've done 2 days at work. Just need a break now.
Yes, I'm understanding what that burnout's like. I'm getting that at the moment myself. But this show isn't about me. Actually, before we go any further, drinking. What are we drinking?
I've moved on.
You've moved
Yeah.
on. I'm
Yeah,
really sorry to hear that.
Not on the,
Right, you mean drinks? Okay.
Yeah, not on the whiskey. I'm having a celebratory glass of wine now.
Ooh! Rouge or Blanc?
Blanc.
Blanc. Oh, what's that headache in the morning?
Mm.
That's me anyway. I can't drink white wine. It's a good job I'm not a girl. It's terrible. Red wine drinker. Mr. D.
Yeah, I'm just I'm on my second bottle of Copperberg. I'm giving away the magic here. What happened to the first bottle?
That is magic. that is magic in itself. Yeah. Well, I mean, people should know if they've listened to Universal After Dark properly, but we've done this as a double header because we're gluttons for punishment.
This is true.
So
you'll hear the first bottle on that.
But I mean, really, on this show, and I'm glad you've done some prep, because I was gonna just drop you straight in it, but it looks like you prepped, which is even worse, because it means it's going to go really successfully. That our very own Mr. Washington, not the Mr. Washington that went to town, but our Mr. Washington, who I gave the name P-Dubs to, and it's stuck, which is good. He's better than all of us. But he has something that none of us has.
I do. I have a nice shiny medal.
Yes. And how did we get a nice shiny medal?
I finished the inaugural Disneyland Paris half marathon on Sunday.
Look at that.
Good for you.
Half marathon.
Well done.
I mean, you should be proud of it, but to be honest, technically, I did a marathon today. I did a whole marathon.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, now they call them Snickers, but yeah. I ate a whole one of those today. It had hazelnuts in it. That was interesting.
Every bite?
No, that's a topic, or of course, squirrel poo, as the joke goes. No, peanuts and hazelnuts probably in every bite though. Yeah, so you did a proper half marathon, not a chocolate bar.
I did do a proper half marathon.
So, it sounded like it was a very packed few days for you, just by seeing what happened on social media.
It certainly was. I flew out Saturday morning.
By plane, you didn't use your arms.
By plane, I didn't do it myself. No, I didn't flap.
Yeah, good stuff.
But yeah, got a plane from Doncaster because I can't fly from my local airport to Paris.
Still banned.
Well, I think Paris flights are banned from East Midlands, so 10 to 7 flight on Saturday morning. So I arrived roughly about 10 o'clock in Paris, and then got the magical shuttle, which I'd actually never flown into Paris before. It was the first time. Normally I've got the train, but it was just easier for this.
CDG?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Literally arrived. The 5K had already been run at that point. I wasn't taking part in the 5K race.
Yeah.
Arrived and I walked straight into the events tent with no issues at all, no queues. Saying that, when the expo had first opened on the Thursday, there was humongous queues, mainly for the pins, which sold out sharpish, and were already appearing on eBay within an hour. About £80 a pop. Yep.
Oh,
it was one set per person, but you could take anybody in with you. So if you had a family of 4, all 4 of you could buy a whole set.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And that went a bit mental. By all accounts, the queues to get into the actual check-in bit were fairly easy on the Thursday and Friday.
Yep.
For the people that had arrived. Again, the expo wasn't great. It was the first time. I didn't stick around. There wasn't many stalls. I had a wander around and looked at the medals for the other events in the States for the next year. That was quite good. Nice to see them up close and think which ones I want to go for. Whether I do is a different story. That was quite good. I'll take a step back to something that I didn't go to. The Friday night party. Mixed reviews from the people I've spoken to. It seemed like the meet and greets were fantastic. Lots of different characters. I'll just give you a brief list of. I've got them written down. Someone gave them to me to put into the podcast tonight. So I've done a bit of prep. So you had Captain America, as we talked about in the last episode.
Yep.
Sully, Buzz or Woody, depending on what time you were there. Again, Mickey or Minnie, depending on the time. Spider-Man, Donald, Chip and Dale, Goofy, and Chewbacca all made an appearance at the party. It seemed to be the problem was the food. They were talking that it was unlimited food. You could go back and get whatever you wanted. That seemed to be conflicting with what the staff had been told. And if you queued to meet some of the characters, you either ended up with burgers or meals that you had to microwave yourself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that didn't go down particularly well.
The new self-service dining plan.
Yeah, by the sound of it. As I said, I didn't go to the party because I wasn't there, but some friends were, and so they enjoyed it for the bulk. But there were obviously teething issues with it. I also believe that the ride shut down an hour and a half before the party finished, which didn't go down very well either. I think the party went on until 10:30, and I think the rides had closed by 9 o'clock. So that didn't go down very well. But I still think it will be popular again next year. Just as a kick-off for the whole thing, I think. It went down really well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we've got to remember that this is the first of these, it was the inaugural one.
Yes.
And it's the first time they've held one of these things. And although, they had some people come over from America that are involved in the Run Disney events over there, it's still the first time that they've done it in Paris. So you've got to expect some kind of teething problems. I mean, would you have hoped for less? Of course you would have done. The microwave meals just sounds completely horrendous. But hopefully they'll learn from the mistakes that were made, and next year it will be run a lot smoother. It's very sad about the pins. Did they replenish those at all, or?
They did over the days, but again they were gone fairly quickly.
Yeah.
By the time I got there on Saturday, as I said, it was probably about 11 o'clock by the time I got there, and I think they'd all gone at that point for that day.
Right.
And that was the last day. The expo wasn't open on the Sunday.
Right.
Technically, it was used as a thoroughfare for people getting to the race, rather than as an expo at that point. So,
isn't that like? I don't really understand that. Why would you close that down before the main race had been?
Yeah, I think it was technically still open after the race, but obviously they weren't at full capacity at that point.
Yeah.
I think they kind of just gone, oh, we'll just have a basic skeleton staff for people that are coming through after the race and things like that.
Yeah.
So.
I heard, am I right in hearing that they were knocking out like merchandise at 50% off, like T-shirts and stuff like that?
Yeah, I believe T-shirts had been knocked down to $10, I think I read, or €10.
See, I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me. Those should have sold out, and they should have sold out at full price.
Yeah.
Not been knocked down 50%, because I'd imagine that people going there, I imagine there's a lot of people that had gone there thinking about buying a shirt, might buy one after the race or whatever. Well, they'd have just bought one for half price to wear on the day, which is good. But I'm sure that's not, commercially. I just don't understand why they didn't open the store. Monday should have been the day they knocked them out at 50% off.
Yeah.
I think the
issue they had was the lack of variation. Whereas I think people would normally go to an expo and buy 3 or 4 different things.
Mm.
Where in this case, I think they bulked it and bought a load of stuff that was exactly the same.
Mm.
And it just wasn't selling because there was no choice. It was either that or nothing.
Mm.
And in my case, I didn't buy anything. Because literally all they had was a few technical T-shirts and a T-shirt that said I did it on it. And it was kind of like, that's just not a lot of choice when you consider what they do at normal Run Disney expos. So I think that's where they hit a block with people just looking at it and going, well, I don't particularly like that.
Mm.
So I'm not going to buy it. So, and hopefully, again, they'll learn about merchandise next year, that hopefully Run Disney will actually bring some of their regular stuff that isn't branded to just the Disneyland Paris race that they normally have. So,
because I didn't see or hear anything about shoes.
Nope, New Balance weren't there.
Mm.
So again, that was another thing that people were expecting that didn't come. And seeing as New Balance were actually one of the official sponsors, it was a bit of a letdown.
Mm. I would say they are quite expensive, those shoes.
Yeah.
From what I remember, I haven't seen them recently, but
I think they were about $130.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So yeah, not cheap. So coming out of the expo, I went and checked in. I wasn't staying on property this time. I stayed at the Explorers Hotel, just off property. I can safely say next year I will be staying on property. Not due to the fact that the hotel was bad. It was just a pain in the arse trying to get to the race and everything. It just didn't work for me anyway. Certainly, I being only there for a night, I didn't get a chance to go back to my hotel and have a shower after the race. Nothing against the hotel at all. The hotel was lovely, but next year I will be staying on property for the race. So that's just something to take into consideration, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've not. That's a hotel I've not stayed at. In fact, I've not stayed at. There's that one. There's Is it Magic Circus?
Yes.
So it's Dream Castle, Magic Circus, and what's the other one there?
The Kyriad.
Yeah.
There's the Kyriad, and they built a new one, the B&B.
The B&B's just opened up there as well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
See, the problem with those hotels, because I mean, I've talked before about how I really enjoy staying off property, but I stay in Val d'Europe.
Yeah.
And as long as you're in a hotel or an apartment that's like fairly near the station, everything's really easy. You've got a lot of shops and a big supermarket there. The train takes 2 minutes to get from there to Marla Valley. So it's very quick to get into the park. But when you're staying at those hotels there, you can't walk to the park. You have to get a bus. I mean, all right, okay. So Val d'Europe, you can't walk from there either, but you can get a train, and it's very easy to get a train. Trying to get a bus on property can be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Especially at the
and
end
don't
of the
get me
day.
wrong, the buses were fine. I had no issues with them. Other than the one in the morning for the race that was late. After they'd promised us it'd be there at 5:30 and it wasn't. It was nearly 6 by the time it turned up. Other than that, during the rest of the weekend, the buses were fine. I never waited more than 5 minutes.
Well, that's quite good.
Even coming out of the race at the end, I only waited 5 minutes. And believe me, when I saw that bus, I couldn't have been happier. But yeah, nothing against the hotel at all. The hotel was lovely. I'd stay there again if I was visiting for any other reason other than the race. I would quite happily stay there again. I ended up in a room for 6 people, just for me, which was quite good. A double bed and 2 sets of bunk beds. So there was more than enough room for just little old me by myself.
Did you go top bunk or?
Yeah, in the other room, because there was one that was sort of separate off by itself from the main room. So I locked myself in the room, and that was it. I was fine. Then I went back to the park and became an annual pass holder. So did that. I bought a ticket before I went in, so they took that off of my annual pass price. I've got the non-blackout day one, so the one with all the benefits.
Yeah, so you bought the Dream Pass.
Yes, I've got the Dream Pass.
Now, am I right? I'm sure you mentioned when we were talking on Facebook the other day, other social media platforms are available, that you bought the pass as a monthly payment.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So because when I bought my Dream Pass last time, I just bought mine at the window.
Yeah.
So because you were doing it as a pay monthly thing, is that why you had to buy a ticket?
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
You can't do that on the gate. You actually have to go to the annual pass office inside the park.
Oh, like you say, it doesn't cost you any more money because you get the money back off the cost of the pass anyway.
No,
but
exactly.
It just seems a bit long-winded. But I suppose if that's the process they've got in place, and that's what it is, really, isn't it? So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was all done, and I kind of weirdly I felt I was going to spend more time in the studios this time round.
Why? No one would ever say that ever.
No, but it's picking up. I give them their dues that they are starting to work on it. Obviously, I only had a few hours anyway. So the main point of being in the studios was for Mickey and the Magician, the new show that they've got that I hadn't seen yet. Very, very clever. I won't give any spoilers, but it's very different to Animagique. None of the backlit stuff really. anymore. It's more of a proper, well, I'd say a theatre show than what we've seen Disney do at Paris for a while. All about basically Mickey learning to be a magician, and you go through some of the characters that you'd expect to see, but it's not the characters as you know them. Genie's in there, and it's very much like the West End Broadway version of Genie.
Okay.
Rather than the character that we know from the film, and similar stuff to that. That's the way it's gone. They've gone for the more realistic versions, should I say, rather than the character versions that we've seen previously.
When you say that about the Genie, do you mean because for those that haven't seen the West, I mean, I suppose a lot of people listening haven't seen the West End version yet, but there's been adverts on the internet and on TV for it. So the Genie in the stage production is an actor with blue makeup rather than a character in a kid's, close your ears, an actor in a suit. So you can uncover your ears now. So what type of Genie do you get in that production?
Very much the one that we see in the West End, the painted version.
Wow, okay, that's interesting. Because what's I think is unusual is the fact that obviously Genie is a character in the park.
Yeah.
Isn't he? So you would have thought they'd have just kept the same. That's interesting. Okay.
No. So, and I don't think it's, as I say, it's very clever. I don't think the storyline is quite as good as Animagique. You're definitely missing. I think the whole thing with Donald is kind of missing. It's kind of Mickey not going and making a mistake. It's Mickey learning this time, rather than with Donald not really knowing what he's doing and causing a mess.
Yeah. And
things like that. It's kind of more of a linear storyline of Mickey just kind of picking up little tips as he goes. So, and there's a very good animatronic, should I say, candlestick that we all know and love. Lumiere has his own animatronic in the show, which is very clever, which I quite enjoyed. As I say, it's definitely higher standards in terms of the production itself, compared to Animagique. Animagique was very basic compared to this. A lot of set changes and things like that in Mickey and the Magician, and I truly enjoyed it. So for anybody that's not seen it and is heading to Paris, I definitely recommend going to see it.
How long did it last in comparison? Because I mean, Animagique was, I was watching it the other day actually on YouTube, and I think it clocked in around about 17-18 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's probably roughly the same. It's probably about 20 minutes. So yeah, definitely. I think that's the way they go, so they can fit the same amount of shows in per day. So yeah, definitely go and see it if you get a chance.
Sounds good.
It almost sounds a little bit like Disney Junior on stage.
A little bit, yeah.
That I don't know, kind of interconnects.
Yeah. I don't know whether any of you guys have watched any of the videos of Mickey and the Magical Map in California.
No, I've not.
It's very similar in terms of that. So if anybody out there has seen that, then that's the kind of thing that you should expect.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, then it was just a case of a couple of old favourites. I went to see Cinemagique. Always good to have a laugh at Martin Short. Then what did I do then? I grabbed
Armageddon, obviously.
Oh God, there was a queue for Armageddon. I couldn't believe it.
Was it raining outside?
No.
Actually, you know what? I think I know why though. I do think I know why. Because a lot of people had come over first timers because of Run Disney.
Yeah.
So I reckon that's probably why, because they didn't know. It's a bit like Foolish Mortals, isn't it? Let's be honest. They don't know what they're letting themselves in for. When the pre-show's better than that. I love Cinemagique, so just to go back to that a second. Do you not wish, though, that they'd kind of go back. You know, we've recently seen them put effects over Steve Tyler's hand.
You want to put an effect over Martin Short's wig? Is that
No,
what you're saying?
no, that's fine. I've got no problem with the wig. It's the mobile phone.
Yes. Yeah.
It's such a dated mobile phone. The problem with mobile phones in like the late 90s was that they seemed to be very much of the time. Like the designs were all quite common, and now you know most smartphones look fairly similar. It's very easy to kind of just make it look like a generic phone, but back then the phones were different, and that really stands out to me when I see it, and it's the only negative I have. I love that attraction so much, but that's the only thing that just makes it feel quite dated, and it's a bit of a shame. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
So yeah, that was I kind of at that point I'd done what I needed to do in the studios. I was heading back to the studios that evening to meet some friends anyway. So I headed over to the main park, and headed for another couple of classics. The first I did Pirates of the Caribbean, just because I don't know whether I'm going to get back before they change it, and add Jack Sparrow next year. I hope to be back before they do it, but I thought I'd better go and do the original before it's gone. So I went and did that, and did Phantom Manor as well. Always nice to have a different version of the Haunted Mansion. I still quite like our version. I like the Paris version quite a lot. I think the story is a bit more cohesive compared to the US ones. And that was it basically for the main park. I didn't really do a lot in there, to be honest, on that first day. Then, as I said, meeting some friends in the studios later on. I went and grabbed some dinner first in the Blockbuster Cafe. Never eaten in there before. Very plain and simple. Just had a croque monsieur, ham and cheese toasty, to keep me going.
On. It's got a bit of bechamel sauce on it. Let's not, let's give it its due. I don't think I've eaten in there. That's the one near Rock and Roller Coaster, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We were last time we were there. We wanted to eat there, and it was shut. Well,
yes.
Yeah, as were half the restaurants.
Yeah, I literally sneaked in as they were closing the doors. I was one of the last people in there before they closed. Mm-hmm. Then, as I said, friends, they were on Ratatouille at that point, so I went and met them, and they came out. A couple of listeners to the show, amongst them.
Wow.
So
couple,
yeah.
So that's all of them then, isn't it?
Yeah. So
you signed autographs.
Some of them said they were very starstruck when they met me. So, and we had planned to do a last-minute Tower of Terror run. So we went and got in the queue, not knowing that one of the group was an ex-cast member. So we bumped into one of the bellhops, got pulled out of the queue, and led through the main gates at the front of Tower of Terror. Basically got our own elevator. All in English. We got the English spiel from Mark Silverman, rather than the French version. And had some great bellhops with us. That literally all we kept doing every second we could do it between all of us was just shout woohoo at anything. Didn't matter what it was. And literally we did the drop, everything great. And as we got to the bottom, we heard the bellhop doing it back at us through the door. And it was just brilliant. They were so kind to us. So the bellhop, her name was Lucy. She was English. That got us through the fast pass queue rather than having to queue for for another 30 minutes. So I'd just like to say thank you to her if she's listening. She might be. You never know. And that was it for the parks that evening. It was kind of, park was open till 10 and we came out at just after 10. So we kind of planned that we were at that point we were all going to go to bed because of the early morning the next morning. But we ended up in the sports bar in Disney Village until about half past midnight. And my alarm was set for 4:45 the next morning. So yeah, didn't get much sleep. Luckily, I had a couple of Jack Daniels to calm the nerves, so I slept all right. I was awake before the alarm went, mind you. I ended up having about 3.5 hours sleep before the run, so that wasn't great. But I was awake. I was ready. As I said, the bus was late, coming to get us at the Explorers. Still got there in time, plenty of time. I'd been put in Corral C. There was 4 corrals, A, B, C, and D, obviously. We're not quite sure how they picked who was in what corral. It wasn't done on times, no chance. So that was a bit ridiculous. It ended up being a really late start. They didn't start setting off Corral A until at least 15 minutes late, if not more. By the time I started, I don't know what time it was. I didn't even look in the end. The sun had come up by that point, having started queuing in pitch black. And it got on its way. I eventually started. To start with, it was fairly easy. It was through the parks. We started through Hollywood, through the studios, through the back. We ran through Lights, Motors, Action, which was quite cool. We actually ran around the actual track itself rather than kind of around the outside of it. We were actually inside.
Wow.
Which was quite cool to be able to see some of it from close up compared to sitting in the stands. And then on into the main park. That seemed like a really long route through the main park, zigzagging in between bits, seeing people coming the other way and things like that. But again, this time there was far more characters than you could even think about. I've got a list. There was a few, again, rarer ones, so they're not in any particular order as I went through the park, but these are the ones that I could remember. I saw Cinderella and Prince Charming. They were with their float from the parade they put out. Again, Spider-Man and Cap were out. Some rarer ones, Cole, Doug and Russell were out from Up. Then you had Alice, the Mad Hatter and the Cheshire Cat were all out. Robin Hood was out. Baloo and King Louie. Instead of Chewie, you had Vader and the Stormtroopers this time. The Incredibles were there. A lot of people dressed up as the Incredibles this year. Chip and Dale. And then at the finish line, you had Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, and Goofy were all waiting for you at the finish line. So once we got out of the parks, that was when the tough going started. Running through the outlying villages, and it wasn't quite as flat as we were expecting it to be. There were a few tough hills, but did it. We got to the back of the hotels where we were staying. That was quite hard, seeing where you'd actually been sleeping the night before and having to run past it. We had to run around the huge lake that's on the back of those hotels. That was the soul-destroying part. You'd got to, I think it must have been about 15, 16k at that point. and you could see people on the other side of the lake, and they just seemed so far away. And it was like that was my wall. I hit a wall at that point, and I was like, I really don't know whether I could do this anymore. But I kept on going. I changed my splits that I was doing. I'd originally been running half a kilometre, walk half a kilometre. Still, obviously, the same kind of pace, but I dropped it to a quarter and a quarter to give me more chance to get my breath back than I was at that point. And then headed back towards the parks, through the village. That got a bit hairy because obviously people were starting to go to the parks and wanting to cross across the running path. So you were kind of having to weave in and out of people. I think that needs looking at for next year. Maybe not running it at the time a park will be open. Maybe starting it a bit earlier, like they do in the States. They tend to start at least 6 o'clock in the States, to give that extra bit of time to get people over the finish line. And then kind of went round the back into the side of the studios and out round the back to the finish line that was at the back. So I made it. Couldn't have been happier to have done it. I'll be the first to admit that I was a little bit emotional about it. I was quicker than I was the last time I ran one. If you take the official time, I was 7 minutes quicker. The only problem with that was there was an extra half kilometre on the race that shouldn't have been there. They made the race wrong. So in that case, I am actually taking another 4 minutes off my time because they messed it up. The official time may say I finished in 2 hours 47. I'm taking it as 2 hours 43, which meant I was 11 minutes quicker than my previous one at Wine and Dine. So I was very happy. Wasn't quite as quick as I'd hoped to be, but it was enough. It made me happy. So yeah, and that was it done. Got my medal, and as I said earlier, went to the bus and couldn't have been happier to have seen one pull up 5 minutes after I got there. So it definitely got to the point where I was in a lot of pain at that point.
Yeah.
My knee, basically, as soon as I stopped, had seized up and just wouldn't bend at all. Weirdly now, I have no pain at all. Within the 48 hours of finishing the race, I'm fine. And I'm actually going to go for a run tomorrow to start the training for next year. So yeah, it was. It's an amazing feeling when you finish something like that, when you put a lot of effort into it. So, and again, I got to the end and I said to people that, oh no, I'm never doing another one. That's it. By the time I went home that evening, I was already agreeing to do it. So yeah, and that was the race over and done with. But again, next year, another challenge, possibly a 10K and the half marathon in 2 days next year. So
you
we shall see. Yeah, certainly am. But I've told people I'm doing it now, so no backing out.
That's it.
Oh, good stuff. Well, really, really pleased that it went well for you, certainly as well as it could have done, and really pleased that you got your medal and you're already planning next year. Because to be honest, I did have a bit of regret. I used to run. I've got something wrong with my knee. I've kind of looked at getting it sorted out and thought it was, and it's not really, and just made every excuse to, it is what it is. But I'm really itching to run again, so I need to do something. And I think knowing that it's on again next year is enough of an incentive to really get me to sort my stuff out. So yeah. I've seen that it's the similar weekend, isn't it?
Yes,
next
same
year.
weekend again.
Yeah. Slightly different dates, but only because that's how dates are worked out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that same weekend. So yeah, hopefully, I'll be joining you.
Yeah.
On a line, not sure which one, but definitely one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the day continued. It was a really good day after that as well. We had a dinner. We had the Sunday brunch at Inventions afterwards, which was themed to the Orient Express. There was about 30 of us went.
Of course, why would it not be?
Yeah, so we took more or less up a whole one of the dining rooms at Inventions, just between us. And then just before we went home, we had a little bit of a run around the main park. Did a ride that I'd never done before. I did the storybook canal boats.
What?
I'd never done before. No,
Extreme.
Every time I've been, it's been closed for refurb.
Oh right, okay.
So we did that. I went on Pirates of the Caribbean again. There was 10 of us, so we had a boat to ourselves, which was quite cool. And then it was time to come home. Sadly, I was only there for the 2 days. So, but there we go. And I just want to give a shout out. As I said, there was a few of our listeners that I met over the weekend. First of all, Mark Turner. I'm sure you guys know Mark.
Yep.
He was an absolute star. He finished the half marathon. And he was in such a mood that he wasn't going to be able to do it. I bumped into him. He was coming the other way as I'd come out of the lake. Not out of the lake, out of the ring around the lake.
I didn't realise there was a water obstacle in the...
Yeah. He was at about 12k and I was at about 17 at that point. And I spotted him on the way and I knew he needed the encouragement. And he finished it. And I'll give him his dues. He did absolutely amazing. And I just want him to know that we all think that he did a bloody good job. He was another one that was at the bar until about midnight on Saturday as well.
That's Mark. Yeah, that's Mark.
Yeah. So there was him. Andreas is another one of our listeners from Germany. And again, he put in so much effort in his training. He'd never run before he started training for this. And he was quicker than I was.
Wow.
He finished faster than I was, and he had character stops. He met characters along the way.
Showing off.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even dare even think about it.
So was that because of you kind of like losing your rhythm?
Yeah, there's that, and I'd been ill the week before. I'd had a really heavy cold, and I didn't know how well I was going to cope. That was another one of the reasons why I was in the bar Saturday night, was calming the nerves. So I just felt that I couldn't stop.
Yep.
Next year is going to be more about having fun. I've done the time now. I don't need to go that quick again. Next year will be about having fun doing it.
Well, because I got the impression that the 10K, because there's no real time, so like, with the marathon you had to go and see your doctor and you had to get your times, you had to send your times to Disney and everything like that. But the 10K, there wasn't a time limit, was there?
There wasn't a 10K this year. It was only the 5.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a time limit on it, was there?
No, there wasn't.
So you was able to kind of, for that reason, if you wanted to kind of take it more leisurely and see the characters, then it was easier for you to do so.
Yeah. And the last shout out for our listeners is Deborah Wolf. She's come over from Canada.
Wow.
To get her Castle to Chateau medal, and is a listener of the show. And it was really nice to spend some time with her as well. I'd spoken to her previously through the Be Our Guest Lizards Running Club, another podcast from the States. Friend of the show, Mike Rowman, runs that. Yeah. So it was really nice to meet her. She got her medal that she wanted. So it was really to spend time with her on Sunday. Sat next to her at the Invention, so that was really nice. And then a couple of people that might be listeners now, hopefully. Someone that you know, Nick, Kizzy. She was such a help at the final stages for me. She was in the village right at the end, and was really giving everybody great support. I'd never met her before. This was the first time I'd met her, and she really helped at that last bit. And also someone I spent quite a bit of time with, again, I hadn't met, Roberta. I've convinced her to listen to the show now. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I'm just gonna leave it. Glitter Beast is what she's now known as, because she decided to glue glitter into my beard while we were at Inventions, and I ended up Charles de Gaulle with glitter stuck to my beard. I had to check in before I could get to the toilet to get rid of it. So
get rid of
she's gonna kill me. Yeah, she's gonna kill me for calling her that, but. Yeah, so she'll be listening to the show now, and she actually went for her first run today. She did the 5K. She'd never really trained for anything, but she actually went and bought a new pair of trainers this morning and went for a run this afternoon. And she's training for the half marathon next year now. So my job is done with that.
Wow, well, that's awesome. I mean, it's funny. I've obviously been on this show since the first episode, and the only two listeners I've met in real life, well, one of them I'm talking to at the moment, and the other one is normally on this show or he's doing something behind the scenes, as in Craig. So I'm jealous, purely because of that, more than anything else. Yeah, it sounded like you had a great time. To all of those people mentioned, well done as well. Not sure how many people those mentioned actually like me, but never mind. That's fine. Hopefully they'll listen to the podcast because Paul's doing it, not because I'm doing it. But it's a fantastic achievement. Whatever race you went for, whether you really went for it on the 5K, whether you took it leisurely to see the characters more, or you did the half marathon and just finishing it full stop. It's an achievement. I know Caroline. I don't even know if Caroline listens to this podcast. Actually, I should find that out. But a good friend of mine, Caroline Gray, she raced and did I think she did the half marathon. I'm sure she did the half marathon. And she got her medal as well. So if you are listening, well done to you. But anyone that's listening to this that you did that either race, big congratulations, and really hope to see you next year. I will be there next year. That's it. I've made that declaration now. I will do it. I'm not sure what I'm going to run yet, but I will run at least one of those races. Absolutely. So you will see me there next year. Yeah. Oh God, I've said it in public now, haven't I?
Yeah, that's it, mate.
Really
You're done now.
Really tired now.
Yeah.
Just got to find the money to go.
To it.
But that's excellent. Thank you very much for that. I'd say that's almost a show done. We've got a few other things to talk about though, so we'll have to drag this out a little bit longer. Right, so it's time to talk about the other sponsor we have for the After Dark Podcast Network. And gents, if you were thinking, as you have done previously and you will do again, if you was thinking about booking a trip to one of the parks that we've talked about, who would you think of asking, or at least approaching?
Well, there's only one name that springs to mind only.
Wendy. So Wendy's so famous, she's only got one name, like Madonna or Cher. Well, it's not actually true. She has two, because she's got a surname as well, which is Prater. So of course, Wendy Prater at Magical Journeys Travel. We're so well prepared with this. It's like we've been practicing all day, finishing off each other's
sentences.
Sandwiches! For God's sake. This is totally unorganised. But we may be unorganised, but Wendy is not.
Oh, smooth.
You see?
I love how you did that.
That's what she's there for.
I'm a big fan of your work.
Oh well, we're a big fan of Wendy's work, which is the point. More than that, Whether you've been to Disney 1 or 100 times, there's still lots of planning involved, and I think we can all attest to that.
Yep. And their burgers are good as well.
They are. They are. And of course, now with Magic Bands, everything else is even more complex. I mean, geez, the last time I went, it was much easier than it is nowadays. So, Wendy can be the person to take away that pain of getting a reservation for Be Our Guest. Where, friend of the show, that Florida guy, just tried the grey stuff.
Yeah.
Hasn't reported back yet as to what it tasted like. And, you could try and get a fast pass for Anna and Elsa. Now, if us mere muggles or mortals tried to get a fast pass for Be Our Guest or Anna and Elsa meet and greets, how successful do you think we would be?
Well, I've already failed. I didn't get an EDR for Be Our Guest.
See?
So I wish I'd gone to Wendy for that one.
Wendy, not just the home of good burgers, but the home of good travel planning. So visit Wendy at wpmagicjourneys.com, or you can contact her on Twitter at wpmagicjourneys. And of course, if you mention that you heard one of our amazing podcasts, and that's how you got to hear of Wendy, she'll give you $25 off your deposit for any trip package. And our own Mr. Ripley at the moment has been on one of the Disney cruises, and she's able to offer generous onboard credits for Disney Cruise Lines as well. Something to bear in mind. So if you are thinking of making a trip, before you go anywhere else, go and find Wendy Pratt at Magical Journeys Travels, wpmagicjourneys.com.
Because if you don't, you'll feel like a Pratt.
One thing I want to ask outside of the race, just because I wasn't aware of this until the other day, that this option was available now to us, and I think it's going to be quite intriguing, so it'd be interesting to hear from someone that's done it, and that's the annual pass.
Yes.
Because they've done it for about 2 or 3 years now, that you could do it in instalments, but it was only if you was a French resident. That's obviously not the case now. So obviously you mentioned you had to buy your day ticket and then go into the park and go to the passport office, which for those that don't know is at the entrance of Discoveryland. It's that building at the front of Discoveryland. But how easy was it to sign up? Have you signed up for an annual pass before? Or was that your first one?
No, this was the first one.
Okay.
Very easy. It's literally just the same process as you normally go through. The only extra thing they take is they take your BIC number for your bank account instead. And
what's your BIC number?
It's basically your European bank details.
Right. Okay.
So if you're paying to a European company, they're the bank details that they would see, or if they're paying you, they're the bank details that they would need.
Right.
So it's basically like a European bank account number and sort code. Normally they take a BIC and IBAN number. In fact, I think I've got it the wrong way around. I think it was the IBAN number that they took. And it's basically the same as your account number and your sort code, just for the European bank market rather than the UK one. It's what they call it. It's called a SEPA payment. It's something that I deal with at work actually for our European suppliers. So it's a fairly new thing, which is why Disneyland Paris have only just taken it up.
So and how did you find out what those numbers were? Did you just ask
They're
your
just
bank?
on the bank. They're on your bank statement.
Oh, okay.
So it's fairly easy to find. I just took a copy of my bank statement with me.
Fine. Okay, that's good. It's good to know.
Yeah.
Because I mean it's quite a big outlay. I mean I've done it before just on a credit card and just kind of paid it off in instalments that way. But unless you've got a decent card, you'll be paying a bit of interest on that. So that's a nice way of doing it. And also, just because you mentioned the Phantom Manor, I discovered something the other day which I thought I'd made up. I went to because I went the year it opened, I went to Euro Disney when it first opened, about 2 months in, and I could have sworn I heard Vincent Price narrating Phantom Manor.
You did.
Well, yeah, but this is the thing. I just thought, because I mean you can find the audio online, and I thought, because every other time I'd been, it was the French narration that we all are now familiar with. And I thought I'd just, like sometimes when you think about things, you go through your memories, and sometimes things aren't as crystal clear. I assumed that I must have confused myself, and I just, because I'd heard that audio, assumed that I'd heard it when I went in there once. But no, I actually did hear it.
You did, yeah.
I was just gobsmacked. So I feel quite lucky now. I think it's a real shame they didn't. I know why, in some ways, why they changed it, but there's something about his voice that I just think it's really special, and it's a shame that they didn't use it other than the first 4 or 5 months or so of its opening. Shame.
Yeah. It's the same with Tower of Terror. The fact that they don't use Mark Silverman's voiceover on a regular basis, you actually have to ask for it.
I don't think I've ever heard it, actually. Not there, obviously. Heard it elsewhere, but not there. So.
I actually spoke to him about it the other day after we'd had it happen to us, and he was quite shocked that they'd actually done it for us.
What, Mark Silverman?
Yeah.
Well, he was there.
He wasn't there. There was actually an Imagineer that was there. Terry Harding was there, and I actually mentioned that I'd seen her in the run, and I'd noticed Mark had posted about the English translation the other day, and he'd kind of commented on this post, and I just said, Mark, I actually heard it, and he actually came back to me and said, that's absolutely fantastic. Doesn't happen very often.
So I'll have to do that. We'll do that next year, Paul. We'll make sure we do it together. 2 of us will go, and we'll demand it. Don't you know who we are? We host Europe's biggest podcast. That's that. There's been a bit of news. Did anyone want to pick anything else in particular?
Only that I'm getting on my soapbox.
Oh,
I am.
It's Paul Dolan's soapbox.
That's it. Because I wanted to go to Big Thunder Mountain when we go, but it's going to be closed because I wanted to get rid of my kidney stones. So sort that out, Disney.
When are you going to Disneyland? What, Disneyland Paris?
No.
Magic
Disney World.
So
and
I didn't
Big
realise
Thunder
it was
Mountain's
closed.
down. Yeah, it's down for refurb. And there was an article this week that said that if you ride Big Thunder Mountain, it can help you remove your kidney stones. I don't actually have any kidney stones, but it's a good story. So there you go. If you're suffering from kidney stones, get a fast pass.
I did read that. It's novel. I think that's how I'll describe it. It was a novel solution to that problem. I've been very lucky. I've never had kidney stones.
No, me neither.
No, I haven't either.
Quite surprising considering I don't drink anywhere near as much water as I should do.
But the reason why we don't have any kidney stones might be because we've been to Big Thunder Mountain so many times we've never actually developed them.
Yeah, that's.
Or we've pickled everything with all the drink we have. Well,
could be that. I've actually just realised I made a horrible error of judgment when I was thanking people. I didn't shout out to my good friend Ash, who also did the half marathon, and he took a picture of him in Buffalo Bills on Sunday night. It must have been Sunday night. It must have been after the race, and it was dead.
Yeah,
it was really empty. I couldn't believe it. He said it wasn't as empty as it looked, but it looked really, really empty. Maybe it was just a good angle of the photo he took, but that was quite shocking. But well done, Ash. I know you've had some obstacles during your training, so yeah. there's been a few bits of news, I suppose, mainly around Disneyland Paris. But did anyone have anything to do with the parks across the pond?
Well, I've got something bit about Disney itself.
Company.
That they're
probably the
considering
biggest
buying
news,
Twitter.
yeah. Probably
Yeah.
the biggest news for a long time, actually. And
Yeah.
it's quite odd because this, to me, is a massive, massive story. But I've seen it reported, but it's kind of been in the background.
Yeah.
Like, it's not been like a main feature thing. But yeah, so the rumour is that they've hired a consultancy
Yeah.
firm to look into this and to see. What do you think it means? Do you think it would be a bit like ESPN or something, in where they literally just have it in the portfolio, but they don't really change too much?
I would hope they don't change too much. I think that'll be the sticking point. They reckon it's worth $20 billion.
Jesus. Why didn't I invent
Which-
quicker?
You just think, Jesus, they didn't pay that much for Marvel or Lucasfilm.
No. But I suppose
And
it's the
it's-
world we live in now.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty so.
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, most people use at least one type of social media every day, and normally multiple times as well.
Yeah,
So,
True.
that they are a real part of everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever your thoughts on those. So, I suppose you can understand, there would be a high valuation, but even so, that is something. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, I did see that, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they come out with and what they recommend. But as you say, it's what Disney want to do with it. Would they consider doing a kiddie version of it? I don't know. They've tried, doing stuff like that before, didn't with the Club Penguin, and what was it called? It wasn't called Magic Kingdoms, was it?
BMK, Virtual Magic Kingdom.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, and so they've put their toes in that water before, but this would be something completely new. But yeah.
We'll see. I don't think it'll come off, but
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't
Right.
think it's necessarily on the market, but I suppose money talks, doesn't it?
yeah.
Really. So that is definitely one to keep an eye on, and I'm sure we'll speak about more if things develop. Yeah. Good pull there. Almost forgot about that, Paul. got
Yeah.
to admit, and yeah, as you say, it's a big story. I wanted to talk about so going back over to where you were. I wanted to talk about what was announced today. And it looks like it's been confirmed now. So what started off this morning as a rumour now looks like it's been confirmed as fact. And that is that we are going to get a Five Guys in Disney Village.
Yes, I saw that this morning as well. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting, so this is... So there's a few things here. So firstly, this is supposed to be going next door to... Is it Villano's? What's that place called?
Oh, I know where you mean. Yeah,
I can't remember what it's
they're
called.
putting a
It's
lot of
chain.
restaurants down there, aren't they?
Well, apparently there's three. There's three. I'm trying to see if I can find what it's called. But yeah, so there's a new. So that's supposed to have been opening already, but it hasn't.
Yeah.
So that's coming. So I think it's coming towards the end of the year now. But this is supposed to be going near to it, or next door to it. So, because the other news as well is that it's been officially confirmed now that Cafe Mickey's going.
That was it. Can you remember what the bloody
Yes.
name of it was called? But Cafe Mickey will be going. So it's closing in, I think it's March of next year. It will be closing. And character dining will be moving back into, Disney itself,
Plaza,
as
yeah,
in
Plaza Gardens.
Yeah. So, there's going to be a lot of changes in the village. I mean, that unit is a big unit, isn't it, Cafe Mickey?
Yeah.
I forgot it used to be an LA, what was it called? LA Steakhouse or LA Grill? But it's not always been Cafe Mickey. And I think it's interesting they've done this because you would have thought it'd be quite a big anchor to have Cafe Mickey there because it was a way of people not going to Disney but being able to meet Disney characters. And probably was a good way of encouraging people to go, oh, well, if you enjoyed meeting the characters, there's more over there.
Yeah.
Get in.
Yeah.
So it's, I think it's, in some ways, it's a shame they're taking it away, but, it maybe they think they'll get more value by moving it back into the park. I don't know. But I do wonder what that unit's going to be. I think it'll be quite interesting. And, people are kind of complaining already with this news of Five Guys because of the fact there's another burger place. Some people said, well, it's just an upmarket McDonald's. Well, yeah, I suppose it is. Other people have said they've already got a Nets. Now, I've not been to a Nets for a couple of years, but apparently it's not particularly good at the moment. It's kind of
hit and miss, I think. We've had a couple of good meals there and a couple of bad ones. And it was more about really the attention to the quality of the food and the service. I mean, one time we went there and they did the dancing on the table thing. Well, we just kind of timed it bad, I think, really. We were waiting for our food and they started dancing on the table, and then about 3 minutes later they danced on the table again, and by the time the food came, it had obviously been sitting on the countertop for about 15 minutes and it was cold. And then when we complained, they took the food away, they heated it up, it wasn't right, we asked for fresh, it all came at different times, and then it just all ended up a bit miserable. But then the last time we went, it was pretty good. I wouldn't say it was great, but the service was pretty good, the food was okay. But yeah, I think Five Guys would be an improvement in some ways.
The problem with the Nets is it's expensive.
For what it is, yeah.
When you're looking at burger and chips, you're looking at. I mean, again, I've not been for the last couple of trips actually, but we used to go quite regularly, which again said something. But I'm sure you're looking at probably about anywhere between 12 and 20 euros, depending on the type of burger you have. So it's not a cheap place to eat. Five Guys isn't particularly cheap either, but it's that kind of in between McDonald's and the Nets.
Yeah.
And quality-wise, I'd say it's on par with the Nets. Their burgers are pretty damn good.
Yeah, they're good.
The portion sizes are big as well. You get a portion of chips and it's enough for two people. So there's a lot there to. I think it's good. People are complaining that there's not enough variety, and it's not. I do agree to an extent with that, but it's what people want. And by that, I was having a conversation. I work with some French people, and one of them was talking to me and saying that certainly, I don't know where it is now, but the French used to be the biggest consumer of McDonald's outside of America. So it's a big, burgers and chips, unfortunately, is very popular in France, and you don't see quite as many Indian or Chinese places. You do get them, so please don't write in and tell me where you've seen one, because I know DaD Europe has some, but they're not as commonplace as we have them in England, for example. So there's probably not the demand there. If there was demand, they'd be there and be busy, but the fact is they're not. So there's definitely something to be said with that. So yeah, I welcome Five Guys. I know dear Mrs. Boniface has only had crappy Five Guys whenever he's gone for some reason, but I've not been disappointed when I've gone, and I welcome another reasonably priced eatery coming to the village. But speaking of things that aren't reasonably priced, have you seen that they're now going to be charging for breakfast in the hotels?
Yeah.
So I think I want to say it's about 12 or 14 euros
What?
for breakfast
In
Santa
the
Fe and Cheyenne.
Right.
I
That's
think
the
it's
value ones.
Yeah, I think it's full. If I remember rightly, and I'm not going to look. It's 14 and 12 for adults and kids. Now, having eaten breakfast in the Santa Fe recently, if I had to pay 14 euros a head for what I had for breakfast, I'd probably tell them where to stick it.
Yeah, it's not worth 14 euros.
No, you've got a few choices of cereal, croissants, bread that you can make toast out of, and ham and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And fruit. That's pretty much it, really. You get some not particularly great coffee and tea machines. Juice isn't like orange juice and apple juice isn't particularly great either. There's nothing to me that really suggests that I would go out of my way to pay that money.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather stay off site and just get my own breakfast in, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. As Paul said, though, it's the value results they're doing it to. But could it be a sign of things to come?
Yeah. So is it optional? Can you opt out of breakfast, or have you got to?
Yeah, you don't have
pay
to.
for it?
No, you don't have to have breakfast. But if you don't have breakfast, you've got to feed yourself somehow. And the problem with the value results is that you've got no facilities in your room.
Yeah.
So unless you go and buy yourself some croissants, you take a trip to Val d'Europe and buy yourself some croissants, or you get something from within the train station, you have to go Cafe Mickey or get something on Main Street, because even if you've got a shareholder's card and you get into Salon Mickey, you ain't getting much of breakfast. I've never got much of breakfast in that place.
You get your one cookie.
Lucky to get a cookie in there, and maybe a bottle of orange juice or something. So hopefully, if they're putting the price up to that kind of money and they're changing the breakfast, fair enough. But otherwise, I think it's going to be very expensive. But it will cut the queues down, because they, obviously breakfast is very busy, and if it's not included, it will, people will decide not to pay. So that's a change that's coming in, I think, again around March time of next year. I don't think it was January it was starting. I think it was later, so before the 25th anniversary starts. But that was all I had to say. Did anyone else have anything? Or
no, not this time.
No.
Cool. Well, in that case, I think we should draw this one to a close. So thank you very much, guys, for joining me. I think the last hour's whizzed by. I always feel like we could do another podcast.
I've run out of cider.
Yeah, the wine's gone now.
Yeah, it's the witching hour. It's the school night as well. Yeah. But no, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, if you haven't already listened, you should have done. But if you haven't, then listen to Universal After Dark over on the After Dark Podcast Network, which is, of course, found at theafterdarknetwork.com, or iTunes, or Stitcher, or however you want to find your podcasts, and look at Universal After Dark, look at Pop After Dark. You all listen to Dis After Dark. Look at Strike, of course.
Another member
of the community. Yes. Is there a new episode of Strike coming up?
There will be one after Luke Cage has been released on Netflix.
Oh, which is the 30th, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. This Friday.
Are you looking to binge it?
Yes, probably. It'll probably be done at the weekend.
Oh. Is it 10? 10 episodes?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. No, it's the usual length for Marvel series. Okay. Well, good luck with that at the weekend. That's if you've had enough sleep by then.
Yeah. And if I can get rid of the child for long enough.
Good luck with. I'm sure it won't be too violent.
Yeah.
The other, the other week we were going through Kirby Enthusiasm. We went back through the whole series of that, and you get the odd swear word in Kirby. It's not too bad. And my daughter had woken up and she wanted to come downstairs. I said, okay, you can come down. And we continued watching Curb, and it was like the sweariest episode of Curb. Now, she was 3, but luckily she didn't pick up on any words. But it could have been a bit of a disaster. We didn't realise what we was letting ourselves in for. So I suppose it can happen. So yeah. Probably best you don't do that.
Yeah, I've kept him away from. He's a huge Spider-Man fan, and I've kept him away from Civil War for long enough because Spider-Man says, "Oh shit." So it's keeping him away from that. I showed him the special features, and that's all he's seen so far.
So he's not seen Deadpool yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
That's next year.
Get away from that.
That's his 4th birthday present.
Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll see you all in a few weeks' time. I know you've got a holiday coming up, Mr. D, so I'm not sure when we're going to have some new episodes out. So enjoy them while you can, and we'll speak to you all soon.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
See you soon, guys.
Just keep rimming.
This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast Network.